Well,
And what?
oh, go ahead.
I got to go ahead. Are you
Yeah,
sure? Okay.
go for it.
I now have the pleasure of introducing Karen Cameron-Friesen. Karen is an educator and licensed provider of the Aerosmith program. She homeschooled her 5 children over 18 years and continues to lead the homeschooling collective she founded in 2012. As a parent of children with additional learning needs, she saw gaps in the typical education model for those who didn't learn the same way. Since being told she had severe learning difficulties, Karen's son is now a full scholarship student athlete. As a parent, she's beyond thrilled for him and wants to do the same for you. Welcome, Karen. It is a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. So glad to be here with you and with this great crowd of people. It's wonderful to see some of the other presenters in the field here as well, just as we share resources for everyone.
And it is amazing. And we are so blessed to have all of you amazing speakers and it's such heartfelt people. And so
Mhm.
part of your story, that bio that we just read, I bet is part of your passion about why you want to keep sharing this.
And
So
her talk title is
talk,
Training Your Brain, a Neuroeducational Approach to Additional Learning Needs.
there we go. Complete, right? Passion. How, why? But tell us just a little bit more.
For sure, for sure. In our Facebook Live, I mentioned this the other day. When my son was about 8 years old, we went through kind of the educational psychological assessment steps. And we were told at that time that they didn't foresee that he would be able to achieve beyond, say, a grade 6 level. And that just wasn't the possibility that we saw for him. So he kind of came out of that process with a bunch of different diagnoses. But really not an applicable thing to do. And I am such an action driven person that when we had the opportunity to participate at an Aerosmith program site, I knew that was going to be our road forward. And he spent from 3 years working part-time to full-time in the Aerosmith program and has since done some additional work later as a university student, but it just shifted so many things. And it meant too that some of those difficult diagnoses came off of his roster later on in life. And we can obviously see that change I just sent him off today. He's finished his university career for now, and he's headed to take a test for law enforcement. So this is going from someone who would have lifelong supports to someone who's contributing to society. And that is truly the power of this. And we've had the ability to walk with about 60 families over our 7 years of providing the program for other people to experience these changes. So happy to be here and hopefully inspire some people as we talk.
That is so amazing because
Mhm.
parents can, there's two routes, right? When you get a diagnosis, you get a struggle, you get something, you can either kind of give up and say, okay, well, I'm just going to let the school handle it, there's nothing I can do, or we're just going to make it the best we can be. Or you can be that go active, super empowered parent that finds alternatives, that finds something new. And so realizing, and that's part of what the summit is all about, is empowering those parents, right? That doesn't
Mhm.
mean you go and you
Absolutely.
yell at the administration and you yell at the teachers because they're not doing things right. It's
Right.
about finding things that you and your child can work on together and then move
Mhm.
forward and inform
Mhm.
people along the way. This is what we're trying, this is what we're doing, etc. Right? It's
Yeah.
where's my question? I don't know. I guess what gave you the courage to do that? Because that's
Mhm.
one of the things parents struggle with a lot is like, I'm not an
Right.
educated person. I don't have a college degree or whatever. How couldn't I say that this program is really going to make a difference for my child? Where did the courage come from?
Well, good question. I think I'm just built that way. And that's something so important to recognize. Like, there are just some people who are meant to be forerunners. I'm a forerunner. I'm going to find the thing, or actually, I find the smart person who's done lots of research and says, this is a good thing. And then I jump on board. And so that led to starting CK2 Inc. and being able to provide it. But I also need the person who is just rock solid in facilitating the program, and we have that person, or the multi gifted EA who's able do some social media stuff, as well as support students. So like, I think that's what we're all meant to do, is find where we're supposed to be and then just go for it. And this is my role. I have administrative gifts. I love inviting people along for a process, and hopefully that is what's going to serve the most people. Thinking about the program itself, what sets the Aerosmith program apart from other approaches is that it looks at very, very finely at different cognitive functions. So whereas you might get an assessment that says you have difficulties with writing, or a diagnosis like dyslexia or dyscalculia with math, we say, what is it that isn't working in that larger scale process? So taking, say, the math example, is it being able to manipulate numbers in your head? Is it logic and reasoning? Is it being able to see the sequence from the start to the end of that question? Is it maybe a memory piece, being able to actually keep the number and then do something with it? Yeah. And so our assessment process does that. So we use tools that have some similarities with the tools used in an ed psych assessment, but the difference is we have a corresponding exercise that's intended to improve that function. So again, if maybe more in a reading example, if you're having trouble visualizing the word in your head versus understanding, thinking through language, a one-size-fits-all problem isn't going to work. So we find where you are, and we have these 40 years of benchmark data that can tell us a student at this age and with this background, we should expect where they are. And we use this 12-point scale, and it starts from very severe, and then it goes to average and above average. And that's what we want, is we want to find where you are and move you along that scale so that you reach average, and then you have that facility in your everyday life. And the power is that those changes are permanent. Once you start using those functions in your everyday life, you don't have to continue the program. And again, I just love that we are just transitional. We help you become strong, cognitively strong, and then off you go to do the things that you're built to do, right? Whether it's on the football field or as an artist or someone leading at a camp, all of those things are, you're just more able to be yourself when you have full function in all of these different cognitive areas.
Well, I've hurt my head. I'm recovering from brain damage. I'm not sure how what you do is similar to kind of what I'm doing right now, but
right.
It's like the process that I'm doing is actually like creating new brain paths around the damaged areas and increasing that functional capacity. And I see I'm looking at what you're giving, and it does talk about how it helps with brain injury and other things like that. How specifically, well, I shouldn't say specifically because that's part of what you teach, is how does your program work around brain damage? Are you trying to fix the brain, or what's going on there?
Yeah, it's all built around neuroplasticity, and that's our founder, Barbara Aerosmith Young. She basically healed her brain. You can find her story in a Norman Doidge book. I think it's The Brain That Heals Itself. She wrote an international bestseller that's called The Woman Who Changed Her Brain. And basically what she did was she kind of married two different scientists' work that led her to start to develop these exercises. And one of them, it's a very amazing story. The book is in my shelf up here, but it's the story of a man who was injured during the Second World War. He got a bullet in his brain in a certain spot, and the outcomes for him ended up looking very much like the outcomes she was experiencing from a learning difficulty. So she did not have the bullet, but she had the outcomes that weren't working. And so for us, in some regards, it actually doesn't really matter the why behind something's not working. We just want to find out the what, and then we're going to use that neuroplastic approach where we find your level and then just put it just a little bit above. So the brain is reaching and reestablishing either new neural pathways or healing neural pathways that have been damaged from a brain injury. So in your case, Herb, what we would look at would be more higher order cognitive functions. And often when adults come to work with us, because you can change your brain at any age, we start with those higher order functions. So back to my math example again, I talked about this in our Facebook Live, that I had a young boy who was working on improving his logic and reasoning and his thinking through language. And so those are higher order areas, and he's just been progressing and progressing. But what they saw the fruit in is that he was able to do mental math, and he's never been able to do that before. So it was like that high tide raises all boats. So for yourself, I would start with one of those higher order cognitive functions. And it's so interesting. You really have to think like an athlete. So I'm an educator by profession. I have an advanced music degree. I've taught at levels from preschool through university. I'm an English major. So I've got all of these things, but really almost it's a music element that helps me in this work, because I am used to increasing complexity over time with scales and with more difficult pieces as you're working, and we'll work with athletes as well. I have a fellow, he's a basketball player, and he came to us because, just as Dr. Stephanie was talking about, he jumped into the waters at university and just was failing. He couldn't do those higher order, take initiative, problem solve, plan, manage a schedule. He couldn't do those things because he actually had some very severe issues in some of the cognitive functions related to that. And so he came and he jumped on with us and did as very much as he could in his off season. But then he also saw a shift on the court, because he was better able to stay, his processing speed was faster, his cognitive efficiency was better. He was better able to, with self-inhibition, wait till that very last second to gather all the data before acting. And so even his coach could notice that just in a few short months of working. So what's exciting is we do have a number of sites that are doing some research around brain injury recovery and how this particular activity really helps with that.
That is cool.
Does your program help with emotional stability as well? Because I hurt my parietal lobes, both sides, and that's where the emotional processing center is. The brain scan said like severely decreased activity, parietal lobes. So I also got a big wank in my left prefrontal cortex, which affects the I'm really smart. I hit it really well for a long time, but my life also like completely fell apart. I lost my business, crazy stuff. But the worst part was I lost my emotional control. I've been working on that for like the last 6-7 years, and I appear to have a lot in.
He's much better.
Much better.
Yeah, so good.
What do you notice?
Again, is the power of neuroplasticity over time, because you've been in situations where you've had to work through these pieces. The advantage of working with us is that we can be so intense in given areas. So whether it's that social and emotional side of things, or if it's here's a story about an adult who came to us. So he works in weights and measures for our federal government. He wanted to be able to kind of increase his mathematical work and kind of his problem solving piece. And he came to us, and I know him personally, and he's a little bit gruff and kind of rough around the edges. And as I was thinking about the assessment process, I said to our teacher, I bet he's going to have to work on his nonverbal thinking. So we have a tool that helps you, that doesn't maybe look like being a kinder person, but that's the effect of it. And so we did his assessment, but what was really fascinating was he was at average, which is the goal. So my heart wants to say, oh, I want to be above average, but average means that you have full function in your everyday life. So he was at average in those social emotional pieces, but he was considerably compromised in his, both in his thinking through language as well as his processing speed. So he was getting the social situations, but not in real time. And you can imagine what that looks like. And
Yeah.
so again, he gave his time. He worked in 2 cognitive areas, and that's how we do it. You work on blocks of areas at a time, depending on how much time you have to dedicate to it. All of those pieces. What works with your life? We build you a program around your profile and around what you're able to do. And so he targeted that problem solving, decision making, and thinking through language, processing speed. And he just was nicer. Like, he was a better parent. He was kinder with his spouse. And that was because we pulled his processing speed up into real time. And that's exciting to see. But say you do have a compromise in that social and emotional end of things, we have a really neat study, which again targets that higher order cognitive function, but all of these amazing shifts that happen in terms of anxiety and depression and activities of daily living, all of those are affected positively by targeting we call it your symbol relations cognitive function. So understanding symbolic relationships by two and more independent things. And
So,
and
gotta
maybe
say
just
that you
until
said something in the middle of that I'd never heard of before, and
oh
as
yeah.
soon as you had it,
I saw his
you
brain. It's
took
like,
me out for a minute or two before I was able to read. You said
Lots of words.
nonverbal thinking. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what is that? Because that
Right.
concept, it's like I have a narrator. It unless I go to
Yes.
my nothing box, it's narrating 24 hours a day. I remember one day I
Mm-hmm.
was going snowboarding and we were driving up to the mountain and I was looking out the window and I had this realization that I had stopped thinking for a second. And I was so shocked that I was like, dude, I think this is the first time in my life I ever got to a point where my brain stopped for a second. So,
Interesting. Yeah.
so
And
what
I
is
can't
non
not look at people through this cognitive lens now. I can call it out what people are struggling with. So some people,
no,
it's
back. What
back to
what
the
is
nonverbal
nonverbal?
thinking.
Yes, what is
Thinking.
that?
So that's like reading the room. It's being able to understand people's motivations by looking either at their faces or their body language. It's all of those kind of pieces. So interesting, the tool that we use for this, we take Norman Rockwell pictures. And those pictures themselves are very complex. Like, they're often showing some intricate relationships and different social and emotional cues, as well as different activities happening. And so, to increase your function in nonverbal thinking, you have to tell me the story of that picture. So, you're talking about the characters, their actions, and their emotions. And that's kind of the art of doing this work, is then you have an instructor who's going to give you a score based on your response. And so, oh, you get a 7 out of 10. Now you have to go back and think some more, because it's the thinking that changes your brain, not me talking or not me guiding you. It's you actually doing the thinking. And so then you make another, we call them attempt. So you'll make your attempt, and then maybe your score will go up. Okay, so now what else do I need to lean into? Or it goes down. Okay, what did I take out that I should put back? And then we're going to say, now predict what happens 10 minutes after this picture,
Oh
or
my
what
gosh.
happened in the 2 minutes before this picture. So again,
that's
that's
hard.
how you grow.
That's my superpower. Like, not kidding. I'm a systems level thinker naturally. And so what you described to me I don't even necessarily consider that thinking. I can walk into a room and tell you what almost everybody is feeling. I
Mhm.
can walk into a dark room and tell you what color the paint in the wall is by
Interesting.
sensing it. Now
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
also in the MBTI, I'm an INFJ. So again, that's kind of what we do. I'd never just heard the
Right?
term
Thought
of
of
that
that before.
being.
So, with your concerns, with your brain injury, and this is maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself, but the freebie that we offer is a cognitive questionnaire. It takes about 30 minutes. And what it does is it has just many, many statements that actually correspond to each of the cognitive functions. So they're all out of order. You're going to say yes or no if they apply to you. And then what you get is a report. Now, this is different from what our assessment process looks like, but it gives you kind of a guide that'll say, oh, maybe this is an area that's of concern to you. And so what happens is at the end, then it'll ask you very directly, do you think you have a problem with X? And then it'll compare your responses to what you say to that question. And so again, that's a tough thing too for people. Are how reflective are they? How accurate are they? Maybe Christina's going to fill it out for you and on your behalf, and you guys can compare answers and see. But anyone here on this call, you have the opportunity. That's the freebies that we're sharing. Take the time, do it on a desktop because it's friendlier than on your phone, and you'll get this report, and then we can look at it together. Happy to kind of walk through and tell you more about what to expect.
And that's one of the fun parts about being the host is I get to go play with all these free gifts too. Not only do you guys get them, I get to go play with them too, which is
no, that's great. It's so fascinating. And like I said, I taught for many years, and I can never go back to a classroom again. When I know that I can apply a learning tool in order to change someone's brain, it just makes everything more efficient. And one of the stats I love the most is that our typical students are falling behind their peers by half a grade at a time. After just 1 year working in just one area, those same students are doubling their peers. And that means they 4 times their capacity in those areas in just a short amount of time. Again, come to us. We'll give you our best, but then go and do the thing that you're built for, right?
And that's mostly the answer to that question I just wanted to ask you was, families invest heavily in extra tutoring, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Why would they maybe come invest in this instead? And you were just giving that answer, right? Because of the increased learning and things. Is that accurate?
Yeah. It just moves you forward so much faster. You have so much more capacity to engage with things. And that's a really tough one. I just wrote a blog that I'll post up tomorrow just about how sometimes you need to suspend disbelief. There's my English background, but who would have thought? So looking at Norman Rockwell pictures, or maybe it's visualizing symbols from different alphabets. That's another tool we use. Or maybe it's reading a clock in a certain manner with varying complexity. Again, that doesn't look like managing your university schedule, but that's what changes. My kid goes to the gym and he does bicep curls. Does not look like football, but it changes his football game. That's the equivalent of what we're doing. Okay.
So I kind of get a lot of that because on our last summit, we had John Kennedy.
Well, yesterday we had John.
For sure. I'm sorry I missed it, John. I'll have to listen.
But I actually got involved with his program, and it is helping me a lot. So just in 2 months, there are significant changes in a lot of aspects of my life. And so I really appreciate what you do, and I'm really interested into seeing the differences. But also it's like, I'm not going to give up what I got right now because it works.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it. And there are other modalities that are really effective. And this is just the one that worked the best in my experience, and I'm equipped to do it. And I think that's the power too. Like, we love to work with homeschooling families because they're already thinking differently about education, and this can just so seamlessly go into your day. But John, I just caught just a few short minutes yesterday with you, but that idea that you want to address the whole person. So it's not just a brain, or it's not just an outcome you're seeking. And thinking of you, Herb, what we know, and maybe John talked about this, is that you want to bookend your brain work. You want to start with moving your body. So Christine, I heard you mention this. Oh, I hope you had a little break in between. I was like, oh shoot, I was going to do some squats. I forgot. But 20 minutes of activity at that 80% heart rate increases your BDNF production, and that is what you use to build new neural pathways. So you're going to get your body primed for building, then you're going to do that neuroeducational thing, whatever it is. For us, you're doing an exercise related to the cognitive function that you want to target, and then afterwards you want to spend about 10 minutes in mindfulness. So that can be just as simple as, if a student's been with us, sitting in the car on their ride to school and staring out the window, or maybe you're going to do some targeted breathing, or you're going to do a progressive relaxation activity. But again, that also signals to the body to incorporate those changes that you've neurologically made. So kind of work that into your routine, and especially with brain injury, you want that exercise in order to make your body ready to build the changes into its system.
Doing a state change before you get into the brain lifting.
Several people in this room that knows exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Cool. Karen,
Yeah,
you told us about your free gift, which is the cognitive quiz.
Yeah.
Tell us about your VIP really quick before we have to go.
For sure. There was a psychologist in Vancouver who assessed a student. She went to Toronto, where the program had originally developed. She was there for 2 years. At the time, you had to travel in order to be part of the program. And she came back and he reassessed her, and he was just so blown away with all of the changes. He said, I absolutely have to know what this program is about. His name's Howard Eaton, and he now has the second largest network of Aerosmith program sites in the world. He's located in the Vancouver area, as well as they have a site in Redmond, Washington. And what he did was he compiled a number of case studies. So your VIP gift is about a 300-page book of case studies of students that have worked in the Aerosmith program over a number of years from a psychologist's point of view. And I think that is just so powerful. I often tell students stories because some people like the research, and some people the personal experience speaks to them, and other people just need to hear the actual changes for actual people. And that can just be so powerful. So this is a PDF of that book, and you can pick and choose. It'll kind of give you a little snapshot, or this is a student with ADHD, or this is someone recovering from an acquired brain injury, all of those pieces, and do a little reading, be inspired.
Yeah. And just for fun, you just described Stanley's orange, green, and blue. You missed the gold, but if you listen back to the summit and get to Stanley's part, it's like you just listed three of his four. So that's pretty cool as well.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you, Karen, so much. We want to make sure our audience has a little bit of a break. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving such great information, those gifts and everything. And audience, I hope you're really paying attention, right? Dig in here, grab these things. Let's help our kids be happy, healthy, and successful.
Yes, thank you for being here. And again, valuable gifts, and the free gifts are incredible. It is so worth the VIP upgrade. I can't even begin to imagine people who are going to say, oh, I don't want that. That's just every person is value is so much more than just above the price. And again, it's not about that. It's about the families and what we offer and how you can help. So take advantage of this low price and do it. Get your family some whatever they need from all of these amazing people that we have here today.
All right. Brain break time. Go quick.
Potty,
We're going to be back.